Hello and welcome to the October edition of the Hey Legal Social. We are live on YouTube and Twitter. And hello also to everyone who is watching on Catch Up. We know that a lot of you do that, so welcome along. And we hope you enjoy tonight's episode. So as usual, we have an eclectic mix of legal topics, guests from the legal sector, and also we have some previews of new content that we're going to be running. Tonight, we're going to be discussing great legal careers, starting new legal careers at the bar, legal technological tips, and tips too on how lawyers can win business from the internet. We are going to be hearing from a trainee also who has chosen a career in law after succeeding as a pursuer in a landmark case before the Supreme Court. So, as always, an action-packed episode. So let's get started. And as you see, we are joined tonight. I've got two of the guests tonight with me. First of all, my benchmark advocate colleague, Thomas Ross, KC. Hello, Tommy.
Evening. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Right. It's your birthday today as well, isn't it?
It's my birthday. I was going to keep that quiet, but I've blurred out the background so you can't see all the balloons and birthday cards.
Well, I've got a surprise for you. It's not much of a surprise, but bear with me a sec. This is the best that I could do in terms of a birthday treat. There's Mabel with a hat. Oops. It's not
I like the hat. That's good.
There she is. So happy birthday, Tommy. She's here.
That's a very nice treat. Rosie's on the couch here, but she's conked out. So if she wakes up, I'll bring her over to let you see her.
This hat comes out every year. I think it originally had 3 candles, but anyway, there it is. Happy Tommy. Great to have you with us. And our other guest, as you can see, is Bilal Shabir, who is a devil. No, I'm not just talking about his character. He's deviling at the Scottish bar. So welcome, Bilal. How are you?
I'm very well, Edith. Thanks very much for having me.
No, thanks for joining us. So you two as our guests for this first section, I'm going to come to you first, Tommy. We were wanting to start with you by talking about the career of the now late Ian Hamilton KC, who sadly left us recently. And we know you're pretty active on Twitter, Tommy, as are you, Bilal. But Tommy, we noticed that you had tweeted about Ian Hamilton recently.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you might just outline your own memories of the man, his characteristics, any good stories you have for us.
Yeah. He was just an absolutely extraordinary character. I mean, I didn't know him very well, but I was sort of naturally drawn to him because he was quite sort of outspoken in a variety of topics. And although he was very proud to be a member of faculty, he didn't shy away from having a pop at them when he thought they were being unduly pompous. And, you know, when I heard him speak in the common room on a variety of occasions, and he just struck me as a fairly unique character. But I never really had any idea how unique he was until I learned a bit more about him, and I bought his biography many years ago, which I would recommend to anybody. I mean, it's just quite an incredible life that he had, you know. And you know, and we tend to go to university, do law, come out and be lawyers, and really, you know, stick to that for decades. Whereas we hammy, you know, just went from adventure to adventure. And I mean, it reads like a sort of boy's own comic, his biography. I mean, just to give you a flavour of it, he was in the RAF briefly. In 1950, he became famous while he was a student at Glasgow University. He was involved in the theft of the Stone of Destiny, which is from Palace of Westminster on Christmas Eve, 1950. Which in 2008 actually was turned into a movie. I'd forgotten about this actually. When the movie was made in 2008, Ian had a small part in the movie as a sort of English businessman. So there's not many members of faculty really have been, whose character have been the star of a movie which was made partly in Canada or at least Canadian funding. But I mean, that would have been extraordinary enough just to be involved in that episode. But 3 years later, he came to the faculty and he refused to take the oath of allegiance. And Hammy's complaint was that if the Queen was to be referred to at all, then she should be referred to as Queen Elizabeth I, because there never had been another Queen of Scotland. And he felt so strongly about this issue that it ended in litigation in the court session. McCormick was the title of the action, but wee Hammy was behind it, and ultimately they failed. And presumably by then he had taken the oath. But he called as an advocate in the 50s, and one might have thought that he would settle down thereafter and have a long career doing mainly interested in criminal work, and he could have done that. But in 1966 he saw an advert that Zambia had become independent and they were looking to set up a department of civil litigation. Now, Hammy knew absolutely nothing about civil litigation, but he quite fancied a wee change. So he applied for this job and he got it and practiced for a number of years and seemed to really, really enjoy it. And then towards the end, he had a Scottish friend who was a lawyer in Zambia, and he was involved in some litigation which was contrary to the interests of the government. And Hammy discovered that really to shake this guy up, the police had come out in the middle of the night without a warrant to this lawyer's personal dwelling and come in and taken confidential papers, really just to intimidate him. And Hammy had found out about this. He wasn't asked by the other lawyer to do anything about it, but he took the very principled view that if he worked for the government and the government were doing this, then he was duty bound to raise it. So he went into court the next day, apparently for other business, and in the course of the court hearing, he raised this subject with the judge that this was outrageous, that one of the officers of the court had his property interfered with and something had to be done about it. And for his trouble, he was told by I think it was the equivalent of the Solicitor General, that he had 3 days to get out of the country. So he had to essentially go into hiding until they could get him over the border into Zimbabwe, and he came back with nothing, so he'd built up quite a career over there, but really just had to flee with what he was wearing. Came back to Scotland, practiced again in Scotland for a number of years, and then in 1980 he was getting a bit itchy. He'd bought a hotel and didn't really like the career of a hotel owner, and he applied for a job in Medicine Hat, Alberta in Canada. And initially he had to, when he took an unqualified job, and it then took him 15 months to qualify as a lawyer. And he stayed there for a few years, discovered that he couldn't really make any money. And then he came back. By 1985, he'd taken a job as a sheriff, and he got a position as a sheriff in Glasgow. After 2 months, he discovered that he didn't really fancy it and handed in his resignation. And then there was a series of just absolutely extraordinary adventures. He had taken a pilot's license back in the 60s, and he opened up some sort of air school where people could rent planes for training. He wrote off 2 planes somebody died in one of his other planes in circumstances which weren't really very well explained. And so on top of all of that, he then, it seems, decided, without really any yachting experience, after he gave up the sheriff's job, he decided he was going to sail the Atlantic. And he bought a 27-foot boat for £5,000, did about a year's practice, and then set off from the west coast of Scotland to sail the Atlantic. And it seems he got as far as the Isle of Man, had to be rescued. And for most people, that would be more than enough. But a year later, he went back and decided that his original destination was too far. And he decided he would sail to the Azores. And when I read this, I thought, undoubtedly he would end up back at the Isle of Man or in the west coast of Ireland or something. He actually got all the way there. And I mean, you would, for anybody to have experienced any one of those extraordinary events, would just be incredible, you know. But the wee man was absolutely undaunted. And also when you saw him in court, he was a bit different, you know. It just was a bit different. He was kind of fearless. Certainly so far as the judges were concerned, and he just didn't conform to the kind of stereotype, you know. But the people who were advocates in the 90s obviously had a kind of idea what was expected of them, and he just didn't conform to it. I remember the first time I ever saw him in action, he took an objection in a High Court trial in Inverness. I was either a trainee or a young solicitor at the time, and it was to do with the registration number of a vehicle. And it sounds absolutely mad now, but they were trying to read evidence about the registration number, and he took this objection that this had to be proved by a certificate from Swansea. So there was an adjournment, and the AD asked the fiscal to check it, and it came back that there was some a regulation amongst the road traffic provisions which provided if the Crown had a certificate or something that it proved itself. And the judge said to him, well, Mr. Hamilton, it seems that there has been a development which takes care of your point. And he just stood up and he said, well, my lord, if there has been such a development, nobody made me aware of it. Just, you know, but it was just, you never really knew what he was going to do next, you know. But I mean, he really cared about it, you know. And Ali had sent me an example. There was a case he was in. It was an extraordinary case where the judge, it was a temporary judge, just when, you know, temporary judges in the High Court were really quite a new concept. And there was a particular temporary judge who was a sheriff at Edinburgh and not particularly popular. And he got a case in the High Court, which was really rubbish. You know, it was a sort of conspiracy to steal cars from a Taggart's sales room up in Maryhill. It was Jaguars. So basically somebody had approached a couple of the security staff and said, look, if you could leave a gate open, you know, that kind of thing. And this judge went mad and gave them all sort of 10 years and 11 years and 12 years. And Hammy wrote a letter to the Herald. He was the counsel in the case, and Ali reminded me of this. And I mean, that, no, people don't really do that. You know, they might go down to the common room and say, you know, that judge has gone crazy or something. But he got launched into the judge in the letter. Here it is. It's on the.
Yeah, I think this is a letter now, isn't it?
Yeah. But you know, he was.
I'll just read it out quickly, Tommy, because it's a bit. I don't know, I'm squinting to see it. Bronze Counsel, Mr. Ian Hamilton QC, took the highly unusual step of writing a letter to the Herald when the first three accused were sentenced strongly critical of the massive police operation to tempt some Scots into conspiracy. At any time from beginning to end, they could have prevented this crime. They didn't, and sentences have been handed down by a temporary judge, which will impress no one, he wrote. Operation Jaguar cost us all nearly £500,000 to net a few minnows. The sentences imposed for the nearly impossible theft of rich men's cars compared to that for the protection of wee people like you and me, make me spit. Fantastic stuff. So that sums him up, does it, Tommy?
Up. And knowing the judge, or the temporary judge who was involved, you couldn't have ruled out him making a complaint to the Dean or something, but Hammy didn't care about that. If he had something in his head, then it was going to be said, and he wasn't too concerned about the consequences. But I mean, one of the best memory I've got of him, actually, when he was almost retired, he was staying up in Connell near Oban, and at that time I was the director of the McKinnon stable, and we used to go to Edinburgh for our Christmas night out one year and then Glasgow the next year, and vice versa. And it meant that half the group were sort of leaving at 10:15 to get the last train, wherever we were. And I come up with this idea, well, why don't we go to Oban? Because if we go to Oban, nobody's going home. We can take a hotel, we'll all go. And best of all, we can get wee Hammy down. And he came, no, he didn't know we were coming. Somebody said they were going to be working up there or something. And would they want to go out for dinner on the Friday night? So he came down just thinking he was meeting, Spud Murphy or something. And then he came in, there was about 25 of us there, and it was really, really made up. And he without any warning, he stood up and he made a wee speech. And he said something like, before tonight, the greatest honour that had ever been paid to me was when I was appointed one of Her Majesty's Council in Scotland. But that is as F all, and he didn't say F, compared to the honour that you do me tonight. It was just fantastic.
Oh.
And listen, how many people would 25 advocates travelling to Oban on a Friday night, that shows how much everybody likes him, and I'm really glad I did it, because it's a good memory, now that he's left us.
Absolutely. What an incredible man, and what an incredible life. And yeah, just as you're saying, obviously a man that was principled and prepared to stand up and say what he thought, no matter what other people thought of him. So thanks, Tommy. That's absolutely brilliant stuff. So Bilal, having heard that, do you think you can match Hammy's career?
I know. I think I've got a way to go yet, Edith.
So Bilal, you have embarked on, you're doing a recording series for us about deviling, and just to give people a bit of an insight into deviling, what's entailed, because it's we're recording recently, and you were saying there's a real kind of air of apparent secrecy about it, and people don't really know what's going on. So you're kind of pulling back the velvet curtain of faculty. I don't know what it would be called, but can you tell us a bit about just how your experience has been so far with the deviling process?
Yeah, of course. It's been really positive, actually. So I think, over the series, we kind of talk about coming to the bar and kind of pre-deviling requirements and kind of life as a devil. But the long and short of it is that it isn't kind of what I expected in a positive way. I wasn't really sure, how much I would kind of be grinding and how late I would be working. But it's been very intense, but it's been really fun. And amongst our cohort of 11, there's quite a lot of camaraderie. We're kind of doing practical exercises every day. So today was mediation exercises. We've got a proof to run for the rest of the week. We've got a debate to do. So it's very much focused on getting you up on your feet and getting you, every single session is geared towards making you a better advocate. And it's been amazing. And I think what has touched us more than anything else, and this goes for the whole cohort, is the number of members who come and give up their time voluntarily to help us get better. And it's everyone from those who have called a couple of years ago to those who have been practicing for 40 years plus, make time to come out and help us, and our instructors in the exercises that we do, and then give us one-to-one sessions as well. And that for me has really solidified that I've made the right decision to come. Because I think coming to faculty gives me the best of both worlds. I have the ability to kind of do my own thing, but with the support of members like that who give up their time and help us get better. So I've really enjoyed it, and in the series that we've made, we talk about really what life is like day to day, and it's been great fun, and I recommend it to everyone so far. I haven't regretted my decision yet.
That's great. Well, and obviously we will be seeing you from time to time just to see how that is going. And I suppose just hearing what Tommy said there about Ian Hamilton, do you feel that insofar as the course that you have completed so far, that it's encouraging people to use their own personalities, or is it?
I think so. I mean, it's quite. I mean, our instructors are very good at not making us like robots. They are teaching us tips and tricks. And if we've got nervous tics or something like that, if we keep shaking our leg or touching our face, they make us aware. Or if we keep saying and or then they tell us not to do that. But in terms of our own presentational styles, I've never ever been told, right, you're doing it completely wrong and you should be doing it this way. And I think that's really encouraging, because we are 11 different people. Everyone has got a slightly different background. We've all picked up good habits and bad habits, but we are at the end of the day 11 different people, and we have our own personalities. And that has been really positive to see that, it's kind of almost like Lego. We're kind of being broken down in terms of our ability as an advocate and brought back up, but with our personalities. And that for me has been a really positive experience as well. It was quite interesting today, actually, to see that the foundation course hasn't changed much at all, I think, since it was brought in about 95 or 96. Because today we were being spoken to by John Sturrock, who we were told was sent on a mission around the world back in 93 or 94, I think, to Australia and New Zealand and the US to kind of pick up advocacy techniques. And Hugh Olson, who's now the director of training now, was in the first group of devils to take on that course that John prepared when he was director of training. And it was just very interesting to see today, actually, that the course hasn't changed much. And I think that's a testament to how good the techniques are that we've been taught, and how really good advocacy doesn't really change. And I think it's really encouraging that we are still being taught the same stuff that was being taught 25, 30 years ago. So yeah, it's a great introduction for us to life at the bar, and I quite like the fact that we aren't being turned into robots, and we're not particularly being told how to change our personalities. It's a really inclusive environment.
Great stuff, Bilal, and obviously we wish you all the best with that. Tommy, how was your deviling? What was your experience?
We had John Sturrock actually, and he was great, and Hugh was assisting him. But there was 36 in our year, which I think is a record, and it was partly due to the fact that it was the last year you could get in without an honours degree. So there were some people, you either had to jump or go back for a year to university to do an honours degree. So I think that inflated the numbers. And so it was a really, really positive experience, but it does seem to me we maybe got away with murder a wee bit, because they just didn't have the time. I mean, there wouldn't be the same spotlight on us as there would be if there was only 12 people or something. And also back then, they were still developing it. So, for example, we would be sent away to draft a writ or a summons or something. But no, it wasn't marked. You would sit down with somebody who would say, well, that's not very good. If he promises not to do any civil stuff, we'll let you through, that kind of thing, But, within a few years, people were saying, I get failed on my opinion, or I get failed. You didn't get failed on anything, really, if you were there every day. There was a couple of people who they thought weren't quite ready, and they could have called in June, and they asked them not to call until July. That was it, But
really, so you didn't have that week of. You didn't have that week. You didn't have that week of exams that you had to sit.
Yeah. Well, we had the exams at the start, so we did the day one. We did the civil evidence, civil procedure, criminal evidence, criminal procedure. I think that's done a bit before it now. I think.
Yeah, that's
so that
right.
was the first
In
day.
February.
Yeah.
Bilal will
And,
tell you the timings of it. Is it April, Bilal?
February.
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 We did it in February, find out results in about, I think it was late March, ready
Yeah.
for Devline to start at the beginning of October.
But then they
Yeah.
introduced, since your time, Tommy, a week in, I think it's the following, I certainly sat, I think the
Yeah.
following February, and that was horrendous because you had to, it was 4 days of something, so writing an opinion, writing drafting a writ, and you had to pass every part, or else you couldn't call, or you to reset, you did it. So yeah, it sounds like you're.
We did have that week. We didn't have the exams. We had things we had to do, but it wasn't as crucial as it sounds as if it is now.
Yeah,
it was good though.
And
John Starrett was good.
That's good. And in terms of your Devil Masters, Tommy, who did you? I should know because you're my Devil Master, and I should know who's in the family. But
well, I had no intention whatsoever of ever doing any civil stuff, and at that time the Human Rights Act hadn't long come in, and so I had this idea that I should try and do something with a kind of human rights angle because it might help me with criminal stuff. So I did it with Robert Sutherland, who does a lot of immigration, or he did then, and review of administrative decisions, that kind of thing. And never really used any of it, to be honest. But it was, it would have been a total waste to spend a lot of time learning how to do personal injury or stuff because I was never going to do it. So, and Ronnie Watson, who himself was a bit of a character. So he was the criminal Devil Master, who's a bit. I don't think you could pick two people at the bar who were more different than Robert Sutherland and Ronnie, But Ronnie was he was my pal away, and he did cases for me when I was a solicitor, so that was an easy month.
Yeah, I think, Bilal, you were speaking when we were recording about the course that you took a similar tack. Your principal Devil Master was somebody that you had spent quite a bit of time with and instructing. Is that right?
My subsidiary, yeah. Actually, that's an interesting question for Tommy, actually, because I think nowadays it's very common to have subsidiary Devil Masters, one or two, as well as your main one and as well as your criminal one. So people potentially have 4 different Devil Masters. But I take it was quite common then to have just a principal and a criminal Devil Master.
Yeah, but I mean, I had no intention of doing any civil stuff. So I suppose people who did intend to do it might have, done a bit of commercial, a bit of road traffic, personal injury, to try and spread themselves about a bit, and I suppose make contact with potential agents and all that. I was really just wanting to get to hell back to Glasgow, and get on with it. So, the way I went about it is probably not, absolutely typical, I think.
I think the kind of thinking that I had was that, there's only so much that I can see and do in 9 months, and part of that's filled with being in the classroom doing assessments. So if I can have a couple of different people where I can go to and see different techniques and different advocacy styles, and then that's all to my benefit. But I'm not expecting at the end of these 9 months to be a master in advocacy in any of the areas that the Devil Masters do. But if I can at least see a glimpse, and it will be really helpful, I think. So I've got my main Devil Master, my principal one, does a lot of kind of professional liability, professional negligence, clinical negligence work, commercial disputes. And my 2 subsidiaries, one does mostly public law and one does a mixture of public law, tax and trusts. So it's quite a variety of stuff. And I thought that would be quite a useful kind of spread of work to at least get me started and see how I go.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, as I say, we wish you all the very best with it, Bilal. And Tommy, thank you very much for your incredible insight into Ian Hamilton. So both of you, thank you very much for your time. We are about to take a short break before we come back with some technology tips and tips on how lawyers can win business online, and also some information about new courses and events. So Tommy and Bilal, thank you again, and I'll see you soon. Happy birthday again, Tommy. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Edith.
Okay, Bilal, thanks. So welcome back. Legal careers these days require not only the characteristics that we've just been talking about with Tommy and Bilal, thinking about Ian Hamilton, Casey, but also skills like knowing about technology and how to win business from the internet. So to help us with that, we are joined this evening by Sam Moore, the first accredited legal technologist in Scotland. Hello, Sam.
Hi, Edith. Nice to see you.
You too. Thank you for joining us. And we're also joined by Emma Flood of Hey Legal.
Hi, Edith. How are you?
I'm good, Emma. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good stuff. I think Ali Thompson might also be joining us. We'll see if he pops on. There he is. No, there he is. Hi, Ali. Oh, you're muted.
Classic internet moments. Muted, yes. Good evening. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Oh, so welcome all to this the second half, as it were. Emma and Sam, you've both been involved in creating new courses online with Hey Legal, and we'll come on to the details of those in just a bit. But for now, if I could maybe start with you, Sam, why is it that technology is important to lawyers?
Well, there's lots of different ways to answer that question, but the way I usually address it is because it's important to your clients. If you've had any kind of business change or disruption over the last few years, and who hasn't really, clients I think are very entitled to say to their legal advisors, well, how has your business changed to match similar concerns or changes that I've dealt with? How does your service remain relevant to me as a consumer of your legal services if you're not modernizing, if you're not following the technology trends, if you're not keeping up with our own world? So I think that's extremely important for lawyers, whether they directly use technology in their business day-to-day or not, to have at least some understanding of what's happening out there, what's changing, what it means for their clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Emma, coming to you next, why do lawyers need to be online? Why do they need to be winning business from the internet?
I think just picking up on something that Sam said there, you're not just competing with other law firms, you're actually competing with the kind of internet at large when you're online. So it's not just about, other law firms don't really do TikTok, they don't really do things in social media, but what your clients are really looking at is everyone else, like the grand scope of things. They're all on social media, they're all using the internet. When they're looking for information, the first thing they do is Google. So it's really important that they find you as a lawyer.
Absolutely. And I suppose that's just the age we live in. Everything's Googled, or, everyone goes online to source what they can. I think I remember it being back as a trainee, the big thing was the yellow pages and getting your ad, what size of ad you had. But obviously now things have moved on. It's become a lot more technical and a lot more, I suppose, adaptable as well to individual companies. So now that we know it's important, do you each have a tip or guidance that our audience might take away that could help them? Sam, you first. Do you have any tips?
Yeah, certainly. So the main tip I like to start with is that you might already have tools at your fingertips you don't know that you have. And a very good example is if you're using Microsoft's Office 365 package, which you probably are these days, it comes with things like Microsoft Forms built in with the package. And Forms is just a survey builder, essentially. It's for creating very quick, very simple forms or surveys or polls. But think about the number of times that you as a lawyer might be sending out a Word document for your clients to fill in and send back to you. Well, maybe try using Forms instead, is what it's designed for. So try thinking initially beyond words and seeing what else you already have, especially in the Microsoft suite. and what else you might use to give better client service, also to make your own day easier as well.
Fantastic. Yep. So as you say, things that are already in place that are just not being utilised. Great stuff. Emma, what about you? Any practical tips?
Well, yes, Ali actually challenged me to show a practical tip in this session today. So what I'm going to show you is how to create really simple social media graphics, because that's something that you will see online quite a lot, but you might think, oh, I'll need to instruct the graphic designer, I'll need to speak to the marketing team. It's actually really simple to do yourself. So I'm going to share my screen. Believe it or not, I have never done this to a live audience before, created social media graphics, so I'll do my best. Okay. Ali, can you add this to the, there we go. Okay, perfect. So this is a tool called Canva. This is the free version that I'm using. There is a pro version where you get some upgraded features, but actually it's pretty simple to use. You might have heard of it before. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to social media, because that's what we want to create. And let's choose Instagram post square. So get a blank template, or you can choose from one of the templates that are already here, whichever you prefer. So we're going to start with a blank one. And we're going to do one for Hey Legal. So I've actually already uploaded the Hey Legal logo. It's very simple to add. Pop that here. And then I'm going to add some text. So let's pretend we're doing this about this video. So make that a bit smaller. And put that down here. Oh, the pressure. The pressure is getting to me. Don't know, it's not letting me do it. Oh, why? There we go. So then for your background, you can just choose whichever color you want to use. Sometimes it'll pull on your photo or logo colors. You can also add brand colors in a kit, which means that you can get, the details of your brand, and then it'll always be the same. So I think we'll go for light grey.
Emma, I think you're, sorry to interrupt, I think we're still just seeing the Canva home screen, really.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
So we have that shared, but we can't see the work that you're currently doing.
Oh, sorry, everyone.
No, it's fine.
Don't
know if it's in a different tab, maybe.
Let's see. Let's try that again. Sorry, everyone.
See, this is the essence of live television, obviously.
Sorry, Emma, I should probably have said something sooner. I was just thinking. I
wonder why. I'm sorry. I was looking at the screen, so I didn't see why it wasn't sharing.
We'll try this bit again here.
Do you know what? There we go.
We go to that. You sure?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, game changer. Game changer.
Okay, great. So actually, next one. So this is Hey Legal yellow that I've chosen for the background. So pop the logo in here like that. I can't believe I was doing this and no one could actually see it. That's very embarrassing for me. So again, like I was saying, pretend we're doing it for this. And then with elements, you can add kind of just search for what you want to add, and they'll have like lots of different things. So I'm going to add a frame here because it's me that is delivering the presentation. And then I've already uploaded my headshots here. So I can pop that in. And then what else jazzy can we add? We'll put a little line in here. Yeah, but basically you can see really quickly, you can build this out quite simply, and then all you need to do is click share. Then it'll give you the option to download it in whatever file you want to download it in, and then you're ready to upload it to your social media platforms.
Fantastic. And that, I mean, that, I know we're a bit of a technical issue there, but that just seems so simple and so quick to do, Emma. So that's a great tip. And as you say, I suppose people are fearful of technology, but you know, there we go. A very simple, a very quick demonstration of just how straightforward it is. And I guess that you can take it to different levels, but for a starting point, that's really effective.
Well, maybe now what we could do is we could share the screen again, and you could try to do that, Edith.
Or we could just move on.
Or Sam.
Oh dear. So Sam, what would you say would be a quick win for a lawyer around using tech?
So, as I mentioned earlier, using what you have available is very helpful, but something Emma's just demonstrated really well is thinking about replacement tools for things that you do every day. I like Canva as well. I use it frequently. And one thing I use it for is to replace PowerPoint decks, because we're endlessly creating PowerPoint decks as lawyers. It happens all the time. But in many cases, it's just the default tool we've been using. Many of us unaware there are better tools out there for similar jobs, and Canva is a good example of that. If you're making, for example, a very short informational deck that's going in possibly as part of a bid or a tender, something like that, then you might find something like Canva is quicker to use, it's more flexible, and it outputs as a PowerPoint deck anyway. So my tip there would be to think about the tools that you use routinely and you've been doing almost out of habit for months, years, possibly decades, and just Googling product X alternatives and just see what comes up. And don't start using things willy-nilly. Of course, your IT department might have a fit if you do that, but it gets the mind thinking about what else is possible that you may be totally unaware of because you've been just doing the same thing for so long that things like Canva have just gone under your radar.
Absolutely. Great tips there, Sam. Thank you. So Ali, there are courses. So could you tell us a bit more about those?
There are courses, yes, which we have been working on, all of us collectively over the last few months, which has been good fun. I think the point you made there, Sam, about using Canva is really interesting, because I think there can be a mindset at times that says we use certain things for work and other things are frivolous, and we don't really do that. And actually taking that to quite a fundamental level, things like video conferencing were very often, a bit pre the pandemic, was dismissed as being a little bit frivolous. Really, it wasn't the way that you conducted serious business. And it was also, to keep the theme of using technology that you've got to hand, it was also technology that we all had, but really wasn't adopted. And Sam and I have been tutors on legal tech and innovation over the last few years at Glasgow University, and we've talked to these very concepts, you know, of just using what's there. So that was a long-winded introduction to talking about the courses, but basically what we've done is we've created courses that we know fit with what our audience want, which is everyone's busy, they want fast-track learning, they want quick wins. We all get frustrated when faced with massive learning curves, and very often getting, you know, a very large book or a very lengthy course is totally off-putting. So we've created short-form content, a bit like Emma's demonstration tonight, quick ways to just get ahead and say, oh, I think I could do that myself, and we get on with it. So the 2 courses that we have created thus far in collaboration with the Law Society of Scotland are around winning business online for lawyers, which we obviously think is crucially important because it's where everyone is increasingly sourcing every type of service that they need, and that does include lawyers. And then obviously legal tech. So the course is called Legal Tech for All Lawyers. And this is something that myself and Sam have discussed. I'm very much nearer to most of the profession, I think, which is to say that legal technology can be intimidating, bamboozling, something that you think you've already missed the boat on and you really can't ever catch up. And this course is entirely designed to just pull, the guy ropes down back towards basic fundamental understanding of key concepts. And why should you bother with that? Well, as Sam explained, clients demand it. You need to be tech literate these days. That's not to say you become a legal technologist, but you need to have an understanding of fundamentals, because clients want it, but also you need it if you want to drive your own business forward and your career forward. So courses are available. They're on the Law Society website. We'll post links into the description. We have people working through them now. We're getting great feedback on them, which is fantastic. It's great to take something from a concept and an idea into a reality, and to think that we might manage to inspire people to do things and think a bit differently would be fantastic. So that's where we're at with courses.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all very much for that little tutorial there. Just I think even just talking about it will make people think, what can they do to engage in this, and what do they have at their fingertips that they should be using already. And it's not, I suppose it's the fear factor for some, but that's been a really great insight to everything. So Sam, Emma, Ali, thank you all very much indeed. We are going to take another short break and we'll come back. And I think, Ali, you're coming back on. I hope you're coming back on to talk about some more content that's available with Hey Legal. So we'll take a short break just now. But Emma, Sam, thanks so much.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. So welcome back. Hello again, Ali. In our final part, we just wanted to preview some great new content that we have coming your way from Hey Legal. So I've already touched upon the course that Bilal is kindly doing for us on Deviling. And that's going to be, the first part of that will be released in the next week or so. Should also probably mention exciting news about Hey Legal's first conference, Powering Up. Ali, do you want to say a bit more about that just now?
Well, yes. So that is scheduled for the 25th of February. It's still to launch, but it's an online event. So the registration page will be opening up for that soon. And we are planning a day of uplifting content with speakers all chosen to basically give us a bit of a laugh, to take us out from winter into springtime, to make us want to get back out there and just feel a bit more energized around what lies ahead, really, and powering up into the year ahead. January and February, which can be a pretty grim time of year. That was why we launched the social, obviously, was that we want starting in January 2022, yes. Because it can be a tough time of year. So we thought this would be a great event. We're hoping to get a really wide audience for it, full participation, everyone can take part, interesting formats, interesting topics. So more details to be revealed, but the date to save, 25th of February. I think it will run roughly from about 9:30 till 2, maybe later into the afternoon, depending on how much we're trying to get through. So,
and we've got some really fantastic speakers for that. Really excited about it. I think it'll be, obviously you'll say, oh, well, you'd say that anyway, but it really is an exciting programme that we have got lined up, and speakers, just some incredible people coming along. So, yeah, we will keep everyone updated on that. But as you say, save the date, 25th February 2023.
yeah.
And yes, and another course we want to talk about is this not course, but Hey Legal's Insights interview, which is being released shortly with the title "From the Supreme Court to a Career in Law." So, can you tell us a bit more about that, Ali?
Yes, Edith. So I think tonight we heard, from Tommy about Ian Hamilton, and there's so many stories. Ian Hamilton KC, to give him his full title, but there are so many stories in the law and backstories to people's careers that we often don't get to hear about. And again, that was something that Hey Legal had in mind when, at the time of launch, was to try to bring these stories out. And one that very much fits with that type of description is the story of Nadine Montgomery Alarm, who I did an interview with last week. No, I say an interview, it's more a chat, obviously. And Nadine was a fantastic guest. And she was the pursuer in a landmark case, which will be known to many, in relation to informed medical consent. I've got a little clip of what we discussed here, which gives a little flavour of the interview, and we're hoping to release that in the next week or so. So I'll play that just now.
My path into law is quite unique, I think, and it's different to most people, and it stemmed from my own personal tragedy. Way back in 1999, I'm showing my age here, my son was born with cerebral palsy following quite a traumatic delivery. And, at that time, way back then, I wanted to know what had happened, what had went wrong. And I looked into that, and I discovered that one of the main failures in my care was that the lack of informed consent, or as I prefer to call it, valid consent, patient consent. The risks weren't explained to me. And as I say afterwards, I wanted to know why this had happened, and I wanted to make sure that it didn't happen to anyone ever again. And that's when we researched, myself and my family, who were all doctors. I was very fortunate. They had that educational background, and we were able to uncover the law surrounding informed consent, valid consent, and we realised that it was substandard in my case. So I went to see a solicitor way back in 1999. The case took 15 years from initial naming and blaming to final resolution at the Supreme Court in 2015. We failed at both the Scottish courts. We failed at the Outer House and we failed at the Inner House. I remember I never knew there was an option in those days to go to the Supreme Court. I remember when we were going to appeal to the Inner House, thinking that was the last sort of port of call. And then when the decision came from the Inner House and they basically upheld everything Lord Ordinary said in his decision, I think it was in 2009, that was like utterly heartbreaking. I was invited to go through to council in Edinburgh and I didn't want to go. And I remember saying, I can't go because I was so distraught. And then they said to me, well, what we're going to do now is we're going to appeal to the Supreme Court. And it was like a gut-wrenching moment because is that a thing? What does that mean? You can go to the Supreme Court. There's another court. Oh my God, do we have a chance still?
Wow.
So that's just obviously a flavour of what's discussed, but Nadine takes us through the detail further as their case goes to the Supreme Court, and then following upon that success, her commencing a legal career, and she's now at the stage of training in the field of medical negligence, as you might expect. And it's really inspiring. Out of trauma has come good, and she tells the story of her son as well, who's done tremendously well. So it's a inspiring interview. So I'm looking forward to releasing that, and hopefully everyone can take the time to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks incredible. It looks really fascinating. So we'll look forward to that. Also released recently was the interview that I did with Lady Dorian on the current death by driving consultation, and that is still that consultation is still open and seeking input until the 22nd of November this year. So please watch that also and participate if it's of interest to you. But it should be to anyone that's practicing in that area. With so please have a look at that and engage in the consultation. So Ali, I think that's it. I'm told it's a Champions League night, whatever that means, and it's best that we finish sharp. So we hope you have all enjoyed the social. Thank you to all of our wonderful guests, yourself included, Ali.
Yes, thank you.
And thanks to our sponsors who help make this possible. So please check them out and use their services if you can. So until next month, it's good night from me.
It's good night from him.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.